Here's part 2 of our most recent Legal AI Live on LinkedIn. If you missed part 1, make sure to go subscribe at legalailive.com and check out our YouTube channel or Legal AI Live on any podcast app to catch part 1. Follow the Legal AI Live page on LinkedIn to watch us live. Without further delay, here's part 2.
I think I would add to that, there should be, I remember when I was working as a file clerk at a law firm when I was in college, and the accountant came to me and said, it's time to shred, all of last year's billing records or whatever. And I think for businesses, if I were advising a business on all of their AI notes, I think you probably will, and the same with probably privilege versus non-privilege, at a certain point, you want to tell your client to, all right, you should purge this data on a regular basis.
It's not like private emails are in the news or anything right now anyway that makes this conversation super relevant, right?
Right.
That's right. Along those lines, so I think there's two other interesting things that you, Matthew, brought up, and Nick too, with the pendant, because I think that there will be more social norms that recording, even with or without consent, is going to be more common, whether or not it's legal, right? You have one-party consent states and two-party consent states, and ostensibly in two-party consent states, if you wear that pendant, you have to tell everybody, yep. Right? But in Minnesota, is just a one-party consent state. So I, as the pendant wearer, are the only one that needs to give consent, and I don't need to ask anybody else for consent, right? So yep. there's a question is if if we're in Zoom and I'm in Minnesota and Matthew's in Illinois with that, which I think is a two-party consent state.
It is.
Do I need to ask Matthew's permission? Probably. Do people, 99% of the population, actually ask for that permission? Probably not. So I think this is where the law is kind of knocking into public action, and of course, the law usually goes wherever public reaction goes. And I think we're going to have to figure out a norm to say, hey, no, proactively, I don't think we should record this conversation. But then even if we say, yes, let's go ahead and record this conversation, you could imagine during that recording, you could say, oh gosh, I shouldn't have said that thing about my wife. Can we go back and delete that from the record? Right. And I don't think a lot of tools are able to then go back and selectively delete the thing. Right. So I think that we're going to have to really socially figure out the norms of proactively deciding to record and then retroactively maybe deleting the things that should be going away.
Maybe if we just record everything to get rid of privacy, we'll always be on our best behavior. And
Sure.
Then we won't say that bad thing about our wife. We won't even think it.
I love Big Brother. I know you do too.
I would say that there are some cautionary tales with that, Matthew. If you've ever seen the police officers who forget that their cameras are on when they're doing something they shouldn't be doing.
You would think that they would remember that they are wearing body cams.
It's amazing how quickly you adapt to forgetting that the technology is there.
Yeah, I'm not watching it, but I've heard of Pluribus. Have you on Apple TV? Have you guys
started it yet?
Okay, so I don't know. Maybe I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say maybe there's a lack of privacy in that fictional world for reasons that I won't go into. Maybe we have to talk about it in next month. We lay out live.
Yeah. Another item on the recording side that I'm helping organize a conference. And of course, conferences are public, right? If you're on stage, there's no expectation of privacy of what's being said there. Mm-hmm. And because I'm helping organize it, I'm thinking about maybe there's a way we can use, say, recordings and AI to be able to enhance the conference experience. And, often when I watch podcasts these days, I often watch them on YouTube and throw on closed captioning so I could be able to watch at 3x speed. And because I'm reading and listening at the same time, I can actually listen more, I can watch it faster. So rather than doing 2x speed, I could do 3x speed. And so I thought, what if we could do that for conferences? And so we're experimenting is that we're recording the conference to allow closed captioning, which is obviously good for hearing impaired folks, right? But then as the benefit, it's also as a recording at the end of the event, at the end of each particular presentation, we'll have an AI summary recap where I, as the MC, can come up on stage and say, isn't it amazing? Here's the 3 takeaways from that talk. And I could be able to do that for every single presentation that people have. And then since we have a transcript of the entire conference, we could have essentially 100 or 200 pages worth of written materials that we can distribute to the attendees saying, here are your takeaways. If you didn't take good notes, here are your good notes taken for you. So I think there's ways to be able to think about all the data exhaust being thrown out in the conferences that aren't being captured right now, and maybe capture that data exhaust in a very useful way.
Submit it for CLE approval, right? Like get that CLE that maybe you weren't planning on getting. you know?
Yeah.
On the marketing side of legal tech, where I sit on the legal tech and the legal marketing sort of, we would call that repurposing, Damien. That's just repurposing the content in
That's right.
conferences. It would be good for their SEO, for their, they could reuse a bunch of that data. The fact that you're watching and reading anything at 3x is very, very concerning for me. I'm in the 1.5 to 2 if I'm in a really good mood.
My
Three
my
is-
wife says, my wife says that if I listen to things slower, then maybe I talk slower, and maybe I'm trying to catch up to the 3x.
You
Yeah,
can talk very
I've-
fast, Damien, as someone who edits this podcast and produces this podcast. I edit at 3 times speed for what it's worth, because it's good enough, like let's be real, right?
Yeah.
And Apple Podcasts with the most recent iOS lets you go up to 3 times speed. And what I found, Damien, is there are certain fast talkers and other things that if I am listening at 3 times speed, I
Yep.
think I am getting most of it, but my brain starts to hurt. Like my head actually starts to hurt if I listen to too many podcasts at 3x speed. So I'll go back down to 2x speed, which sounds slow at that point, but then it's, it makes that listening easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
My concern about and I've reduced down to 1.5 or 1.25 a lot of the time, is not so much that the listening are things that I'm missing. It is then when I'm talking to people in person, I'm like, this is taking forever, right? What they're saying is taking forever. So I had to bring it back down so that I maybe had a little bit more patience in talking to people IRL.
So the last thing I want
good.
to say about the recording stuff, just to we got about 15, 20 minutes left of the pod, is I would love to have a legal tech tool, just putting this out there into the ether, that is secure in such a way that I could record client conversations where maybe it remains privileged, it's not discoverable, and we all agree on a standardization there, because I am recording every conversation I have except for the ones with my clients, which makes it really hard for me to leverage all the tools that I'm using for everything except for my client conversations. So just putting it out there. Maybe
Stay
it's future Clio, right? Offering, right?
I think Quarius is working on something like this, but I guess it doesn't solve your concern about the privileged information.
Yeah. You can imagine that, Matthew, your wish has been discussed at some innovative legal tech companies.
Right.
Yeah.
I would think somebody would be working on that, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why we don't have a new startup doing that. maybe that's why. So, but I did like Quarius. I liked everything about Quarius except how they were like something about billable hours and helping you with your billable hours. I was like, ooh, you almost had me 100%, but you've only got me 90% at ABA Tech Show. And
Yeah.
I think they won, right? They co-won. It was 2 winners for
They
ABA
won
Tech Show.
something. I like them. I like the team a lot. I think the issue spotting assistance is really cool idea, right?
Absolutely.
Boy, that'd be great on the bar exam. So I mean, we think we get pretty good at spotting issues, but then what if you're really drilling down to a lot of additional issues? So I like it. I think they've got some pretty positive growth ahead of them. So
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do think that they're, and the billing, I mean, it comes back to billing so often, doesn't it? That I think we're in a space now in legal technology where, especially legal AI, where additional features are really showing themselves as a necessity. That seems to be the wrapper is not the only thing that most of them are able to do. So I'm seeing some added features coming.
Yeah. So really quick then, and we'll get your guys' input on this. What I've been trying in AI, 45 minutes into the episode. No, it's okay. No, this is good. I'm so glad. I love just going with the flow. Is Perplexity snuck in a new feature called Tasks, and so you have to go to your account. And you have to click on your account, and then you scroll down, and then there's a tasks button, and there will be a little blue dot if you haven't used it yet. And what you could do is you could automate repeat Perplexity inquiries, and it will just run them for you. So I'll give you I'll give you 2 that I'm running, just because I'm curious about it. Find publications from the last day, including blogs, articles, and social media posts about the end of the billable hour. And I have another one about the AI's impact on the law firm business model. Sometimes it's finding the same one, sometimes it's not. It runs it at the end of the day every day. And I have it searching not just the internet, but also social media and academic papers and the SEC filings. Not that it's going to be there, but I say, what the heck, I could search that, so I might as well search it. And you could also let it search some other integrations like my Like my blogs that I get or my newsletters that I'm subscribed to could search my inbox that's connected to it. So I think that's pretty
Nice.
cool. And so I've just been running it, and it's finding some articles for me, which I think are great. And I'm only quoted in a couple of them, so, but that's cool to find. It's almost like the new Google alert, right?
So it's semi-agentic in that sense, right? It's a little more automated, but it's just sort of semi-agentic.
Just to touch, I tried to prompt it so that it would email me these articles, and it's not doing that yet. But I imagine they'll be working on stuff like that. And then
I just saw. I'm just doing it while we talked, and you can actually set the alerts, the type of alert. So you can do an email alert and the in-app alert, and also the mobile alert. So you could actually specify, at least today. Maybe it wasn't when you built it, but today you can actually make an email as the alert function.
I see this alerts tab on here now. It wasn't there when I set these up. So yeah. I mean, they're a startup. They're iterating, right? Like they're building.
Rapid changes. Now, are you doing that through Comet?
I am in Comet,
Yeah.
but I'm not. Like this is just. I think you could access this in any Perplexity, like at perplexity.ai. You should be able to. Yeah. So, and I do love Comet. I'm mostly just using it as an advanced scheduler at this point, but that's a major time saver for me for all that. The other thing I'm doing is 2 weeks ago, I mentioned how Paxton had launched their feature where you can now have case law and statutes in part of your doc analysis module. And that had just launched. I hadn't been able to use it yet. And since then, it is very eager to want me to use Prompt Assist in every single, even when I don't want to use it, it's like, hey, there might be some legal stuff that applies here. Don't you want to turn on Prompt Assist with your, or not Prompt Assist, it's called Prompt Assist when it tells you, hey, turn on your sources. So we can look at the law when we're analyzing this contract for you. And I don't always want that, but it does remind me when I'm trying to get clients, because I am a practitioner at the end of the day, is I tell them law is the operating system of society. Like it's always applying, right? Like this virtual event has how many laws applying to like what we're creating IP, right? Like there's all kinds of things that are happening. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to keep this on now. But I do find that it's really interesting, and it takes me back to before they separated out their modules to increase accuracy. That whatever issues were there, but when I was an early beta tester of it, I was able to just ask this does this contract comply with Illinois law? And I missed that feature, and now it's back. And so I'm really happy to see that back, and I have been testing it out, and I've been enjoying that aspect of it. The other thing I did, and I think this is important because this is like actual practitioner stuff. So for the practitioners who are listening, I got a new client, and they wanted to streamline their NDA process. So we all know about these standardized, one NDA and like all these, although they've been acquired or whatever, right? So I like bond terms. I mean, they're all great. Common Paper is another one. So what I did is inside of Notebook LM, I took 5 bond terms links because they have everything as a hyperlink. And I put in the actual one-page NDA, the cover page, their explainer FAQs, how to use it, their playbook, and then like some other like explainer thing that they have that's like not their FAQs. And then what I did is I went into the video and audio overview, and I gave the prompt, I'm an attorney for a Chicago area industry of type of client. They've hired me, among other things, to help speed up their NDA process. I'm going to have them adopt bond terms to speed up the process. They haven't used open source standardized legal documents before. Please create an engaging presentation that explains the following. Number 1, what is bond terms and standardized legal documents? Number 2, why this is beneficial to the speed to sign NDAs. And number 3, a playbook on how to approach getting another party to agree to use the bond terms NDA rather than using that party's NDA. And we have to watch the videos and listen to the audio. You could listen at 2 times speed to make sure it's right. I think
not 3 times. Not 3 times.
It doesn't let you. It doesn't let you, Nick. I would if it did. It doesn't let you know what I do? No, so to share it with my client, I actually do. I download it. I upload it into Descript, where I can listen to it at 3 times speed, and I share it because it's easier to share it as a link, with Descript. So. But I just watched it at 2 times speed inside of Google. So then pronounced a word kind of funny in the video, but it's like, who cares? Like, it's just an explainer video, right? I don't have to make the PowerPoint presentation. Mm-hmm. Like, it's making it for me. And then I just ran a regular video overview. And the one that had the customized prompting was significantly better. And I was able, and that's the one that I shared with the client. The other thing I'll quickly let folks know about who are watching is in their new reports button inside of Notebook LM for their studio section, they let you create your own reporting now, and they have the briefing doc, the study guide, blog post. And when you click on the pencil edit button,
this is on Notebook?
This is on Notebook. They're showing you the prompts that they've been running in the background. right? So if you click on study guide, the prompt that Google has been using is you are a highly capable research assistant and tutor. Create a detailed study guide designed to review understanding of the sources. Create a quiz with 10 short answer questions in parentheses, 2 to 3 sentences each, and include a separate answer key. Suggest 5 essay format questions, but do not supply answers. Also, conclude with a comprehensive glossary of key terms with definitions. I've been using just the default study guide prompt that before they let you edit it and really liked that glossary of terms. And so now I love the transparency from Google showing you these more nuanced prompts that they're running in these clickable buttons. So like if I wanted to edit it, I could, but that's a really good prompt. I'm not going to edit that when I have a study guide. And Damien, I know you guys are building some stuff like this too, but what do you think about their showing the transparency of like, here's the prompt?
I think that shows the evolution of, everyone talks about AI going so fast, and what you've shown is really what's happened even in the last year. So in the last year, we've had thinking models, and O1 was the first thinking model. And you might remember when O1 came out, they didn't show the thinking. They essentially just said thinking about, and then they gave 2 or 3 words. They didn't actually give the full prompts. But then, of course, DeepSeek came out, and DeepSeek showed all of the thinking. And almost like what you're saying, like, showing the prompts. So they essentially, because DeepSeek, the Chinese open source model, they essentially opened up the covers to be able to say, this is exactly what's happening. And now I think Notebook LM, they're saying, hey, our moat as Google is not our prompting. In fact, this is a show of strength that we're going to show you all of our prompting. So there's nothing trade secrety about this. And I think that, so in the past year, I think that's showing our evolution as an industry to go from totally under wraps with OpenAI a year ago with O1 to Google showing a show of strength and DeepSeek showing all the thinking. That's essentially pushing people to a more open. And I think so that is thing number one, saying that maybe we're having more transparency from the models. Thing number two is that it goes to the commoditization of the large language model foundational models themselves. Because, Google, by showing its thinking, is saying, hey, this is table stakes now. And it's almost a race to the bottom to be able to say, what differentiates OpenAI from Google, from Meta's, from DeepSeek, from Kimi, right? There's really a race to the bottom as far as, there's not much trade secrety left.
Well, not only was that the race to the bottom in the trade secrets, but what has left the zeitgeist, Damien, or what is no longer discussed is, do you remember even 12 months ago where it was like, well, no, I'm using Gemini. I'm using ChatGPT because they got this and they got that. And so people are no longer doing that debate over, well, which one are you using? Well, I'm using Anthropic because they have this is superior. And so like that has disappeared from the discussion, which is and I think rightfully so, right? Like I get a pretty solid product regardless of, am I using Gemini, ChatGPT, Copilot, Grok, Claude, whichever, I'm getting pretty comparable products now.
Yeah, and both on the feature parity, that is to what are the features for each of those that you mentioned, and also with the prompt response parity, because it used to be that you do the same prompt in OpenAI and it would give a totally different from Gemini.
Different answers, right?
But now really you give the same prompt and it gives a pretty similar response. So not only feature parity but also prompt response parity.
Formatting may be different. What they find is of value to me might be different because they're basing it on our past conversations, but largely you're getting some pretty consistent stuff from all of the tools.
I am still finding though that Notebook LM, whatever they're doing around Gemini, is still giving me better results and higher quality results. Maybe because it was designed as a research assistant wrapper. Like I had this operating agreement that had been negotiated between multiple parties. I represented one of them for this new business enterprise, right, for an LLC. And it had gone back and forth so many times over 2 months. It had been fully redlined. So I just put it into, I opened it up as a Google Doc because let's be real, it was in Word. And so I converted it to Google Doc. And then I was able to connect it to Notebook. And then I uploaded the Word doc to Paxton. And then inside of Google Docs, I asked Gemini. And then inside of Notebook and inside of Paxton, like I asked it all the same question. I just said, hey, is there anything in here that doesn't make any sense? Right? Just to like clear things up. Paxton found one thing. Gemini found another thing. But Notebook LM found 3 things. And I agreed. And then I went through and I was able to very quickly update. None of it's substantive. So, well, semi-substantive, right? Like, wasn't going to kill the deal to make these changes. Everyone was happy I found it and made those updates. But there's just, I don't know, there's some secret sauce to Notebook that just, I think it's just doing a better job at some of this stuff.
What you just said, Matthew, it reminds me, I was just at TLTF and talking with one of the smartest legal technology side, and he did something similar to what you did, but it's actually he took it a bit further. So what you talked about is like you put it into Model 1 and Model 2 and Model 3 and compared Models 1, 2, and 3. And I talked about that in the past, that I do that, and then I put everything into Claude, and I say, now summarize and give me one output based on these three. So we'll call that the old way of doing it. The new way that I just learned yesterday that my friend is doing is he has Model 1 and Model 2, and he asks the same question of both. And then he's built an application where then he has a judge that is a judge model say which is better, which is a better answer, Model 1 or Model 2. And then that judge adjudicates and be able to ask questions of Model 1 saying, well, didn't you mean this? And ask questions of Model 2 saying, when did you need it? So this is actually almost like a judge interrogating through cross-examination the lawyers in front of them. And then the judge will ultimately decide whether Model 1 or Model 2 had the better response. So this is almost automating the process of this shootout between models.
How does the judge know, Damien? Do they have it? Is it have a superior knowledge base with which to judge these Model 1 and Model 2?
Well, I guess it depends on which judge you have, like as a judge. So you can imagine that OpenAI's model, which has more of a training corpus, might be a better judge than some small language model, right? But really, it doesn't really matter, because really you just be able to say, like, if you have any third-party judge, you don't have to necessarily have a smarter judge. You have to just say, if you have a jury argument, like you want to say, okay, argument 1 under Model 1, argument 2 under Model 2, and the judge is like the average juror, doesn't need to be smart, but just needs to, and they have to say, which do you believe, which is the better argument.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
This is why I don't think there's going to be one model to rule them all, because there will be value in getting that. Even if we're narrowing the output and it's becoming more and more similar, there's still a training data bias. There's reinforcement training bias, right? And so they will be a little bit different. There's different humans working on AI scientists and engineers working on that. So I'd rather use 3, 4, 5 models and still use a judge feature, use one judge feature over here, use another judge feature. Your accordion method is still very valid, though, Damien,
yes.
I think.
Yeah, I hope we have that luxury going forward. I hope that we don't consolidate into only 1 or 2 models, because of course, we would be a much poorer society as a result.
I try to get every lawyer to not just use ChatGPT whenever I'm training them. I try.
Yeah. I am trying the investment suggestion, the story that I told you earlier. I lied. I had tried it a second time just yesterday, and what I got were 2 different analyses of a potential investment. So now I didn't have time yesterday, but I'm now going to try a third model or third tool to say, well, these both gave me 2 differentiating analysis. What is your thoughts on this? Or we use it as the tiebreaker or the judge or the neutral party so it's fascinating stuff. It's so much fun.
So wrapping up the conversation here in the last couple of minutes, just anything in AI that you're looking forward to in the next month before we're back, and then any upcoming events or things to promote or things you want to share with the audience. Nick, you want to go first since you're our newcomer?
Yeah, nothing major to promote at this time. What I'm interested in, honestly, let me say this. I've said it with Damien, I believe, before. It's not so much what's new coming up, but we've talked about the benefits of audio and visual, seeing captions, as well as listening to his YouTube at 3x. Notebook LM, for somebody like myself who has dyslexia, has been a revolutionary experience. I may not get to read the paper by Mike Bomarito and Pablo Arredondo and Damien Realby. I may not be able to read their peer-reviewed journal article that's really cutting-edge stuff. Now, today, I can take that PDF, I can put it in Notebook LL, and I can listen to a podcast created from it. It's revolutionary for somebody like me who would struggle just making the time to get through something like that. So that type of thing, an accessibility aspect there that is hugely beneficial. I'm really excited about. about.
And my side, knowing that we have 20 seconds left, I know ChatGPT came out around Thanksgiving because people try to push things out before holidays. So it's going to be the third birthday of ChatGPT. So what I'm looking forward to in the next month is maybe pushes from all the models before Thanksgiving, and then other pushes of all the models before the winter holidays. I think we might get some like Christmas presents and Hanukkah presents.
Oh yeah, looking forward to that. And I guess I'll say something related to what you talked about, Nick, that I'm going to be trying with AI is I get the Google Update emails, and as a Workspace user, they just launched. If you're opening up a PDF in Google Workspace inside of Chrome, you can now just click a button, and that same tech that powers the audio overviews inside of Notebook LM, you could just do it in a PDF, in a tab, in Chrome. No need to go to another application. So I think that's in the early beta stage that they're rolling this out. But those of us in Google Workspace and Chrome will start to be able to do this soon. And while I've never been diagnosed with dyslexia, I have very, very minor dyslexia. I know just because of how it's out there. So I prefer listening. If you right click in Chrome and you go to open in reading mode, you could listen to any website like verbatim, because the audio overview is conversational. And so if you want to listen verbatim to Damien's amazing new law review article, you could listen to every single word verbatim.
Yep. One very no, we need to get out of here. In that same vein, have you tried the split tab yet in Google Chrome?
Yes. Yes.
I love it. You can now have like two. It's like having two tabs open.
Tabs side by side without having to have an ultra wide, which I do. I still have comment on one half of my ultra wide, and then I have two tabs side by side in my Chrome browser. And all right, so I'm going to wrap this up here. I guess my only promo thing is, if you haven't seen yet, I posted a new job that I have on LinkedIn, so check that out. That's all I'm going to say about that. And next, come back next month. For everybody, if you're not already following Nick and Damien and myself on LinkedIn, and Nick, for your information, the podcast ended a little bit ago, but LinkedIn has a 30-second lag, so I'm vamping for the lag on LinkedIn Live. Follow all of us on LinkedIn. Click the bell and click all. Don't rely on the algorithm to put our stuff in front of you. Make sure you're seeing all of our posts. We don't overpost, and it's all super valuable. So with that, I'll start disconnecting everything from the live stream. Thank you to the panelists, and sorry, Ben, we couldn't say goodbye, but thanks, Ben, for coming here too. All right. There we go. Ending stream.
That was fun.